everyone for joining us for another episode of our Spotlight series brought to you in partnership with Dentons. My name is Juliette Chalaru, and I'm the co-founder of Proptech Collective, a not-for-profit community focused on bridging the communication and knowledge silos between the PropTech and real estate worlds. I am super grateful to be joined today by my co-host, Kenda Shaheen, who I'll invite to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. If this is your first time watching the Spotlight series, my name is Kenda Shaheen, and I'm a senior associate with Dentons in the venture group here in Toronto. And it is with great pleasure that we get to invite Amy to join us today for a little chat.
Yeah, okay. So every month, Amy, we have founders like yourself coming and sharing their stories. We're really excited to learn more about your experience and the trends that you're seeing in the space. So, you are the founder and CEO of Requity Homes. So why don't we kick it off? Hello and welcome.
Thanks, and my pleasure. Great to be here.
Thanks for having us on board.
Why don't we get started with your journey up to founding Requity Homes and what makes you who you are and your path to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. Quite frankly, I did not think of entrepreneurship as a career option. I moved to Canada in 2010 as an international student, study accounting, because I thought it's a great skill set to have. It wasn't until I worked in accounting and finance for a couple of years that I realized it wasn't for me, and that I had the opportunity to join RBC Ventures as a product lead, helping the bank build, invest, and acquire other startups in the PropTech space. And that experience definitely exposed me to a very different world. And that helped me realizing, I'm actually much more passionate about building a company, a startup, and solving a real problem, making an impact. It was about 2 years ago, I saw an opportunity in Canada that no one was doing anything about, related to housing affordability, homeownership specifically, and also there are proven models in the US. So I thought it was my time. So that's why I decided to quit my job and started Requity Homes.
I love it. The conviction whenever we speak with founders really translates across all different, story plots. So I guess for our listeners who don't know what Requity Homes does, why don't you walk us through, why you decided to start it and what, in the Canadian market stood out as being a reason and a problem that you're looking to solve?
Yeah, personally, homeownership is something that's really close to my heart. I still remember when I first moved to Toronto back in 2010, I had to move like 7 times for the first 2 years. It was hard. It was difficult because I had no idea when I'm going to be kicked out. I need to find a new place. That experience just reinforces how important the homeownership it is, not just from the financial aspect, but also the emotional kind of a sense of security, knowing that there is a place for me, irregardless what happens outside. And unfortunately, that has become increasingly more difficult in Canada, especially for people who have the cash flow to afford a home, but not necessarily all qualify for a mortgage yet. So I thought there has to be a better way. That's why we created Requity Homes, offering a fair and flexible alternative path to homeownership through a very flexible rent-to-own product.
That's awesome. You mentioned moving to Canada in 2010. And of course, I think probably in 2010, we could all say the housing market was still crazy and we thought it was gonna, the bubble was gonna burst, but here we are still dealing with the same sort of affordability issues. And to your point, aspiring homeowners are feeling this crunch across the country. So in your experience and in speaking with some of your customers, what can you share about the dynamics of the real estate market that are really driving this challenge?
Housing affordability is a huge problem, and it's a very complicated one as well. To simplify, it boils down to shortage in terms of housing supply, coupled with increasing home demand, and that causes the imbalance, which leading to the most recent home price appreciation throughout the country. Obviously, COVID had a significant impact on that because people are realizing, working from home is going to be new norm, and I don't need to stick into the city in those pigeonholes, condos. So it started moving away from the city. And keep in mind, for us, for Requity Homes, our target customers and target geographies is more like secondary cities. And we definitely see some very interesting dynamics in those secondary cities than the cities like Toronto. I'll give you an example. There's actually a significant shortage of single family homes for rent in those secondary cities. People don't want to live in apartments. There's no condo concept. They don't want to live in apartments. They don't want to live in townhouses. They wanted the backyard. They wanted the space for the family. And some of our clients, they've been looking for something for 6 months, 9 months, even 12 months. There's just not enough single family homes for rent in those markets. And what's even worse, the rent payment is actually higher than the cost owning a home. And that includes your mortgage cost, property taxes, homeowners insurance, and so on. And that really bothers me because if you think about it, those families clearly, they can afford a home through the consistent rent payment history. However, they can't qualify for mortgage. So they're stuck in renting forever. And that's kind of the segment at the market we really want to make an impact, make a difference. And through our kind of rent zone program where we help them purchase a home of their choice upfront. So they can rent it from us with the option to buy back later at a guaranteed price that is much, much more conservative than the recent home price appreciation.
Yeah.
That's
And I'm
awesome.
curious just to dive a little bit deeper into that because it's such an interesting model. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about, how do you qualify people and then what makes, what's your secret sauce if you can?
Definitely. So I think to answer that question, it's probably good to just share some context in terms of who our target customers are and why they need a product like ours, i.e. why they can't qualify for mortgage, because then we can go to, okay, how we're doing it differently than the traditional lenders. So our target customers are those aspiring home buyers who can't qualify for mortgage, but have the cash flow to afford a home. And usually the most common barriers for them to access mortgages includes being new to the country, i.e. they haven't had a chance to build up their Canadian credit history, or being self-employed, like myself, entrepreneur, where you need to have 2 years operating history. The lenders will look at your taxable income to determine what's a reasonable mortgage amount. And lastly, it's just families with a fair credit score. Some hiccups in the past, which has been clearly cleared off. But in order for them to access, mortgages, they had to go to B lenders or private lenders where 20% down payment is required, if not more. And there are a lot of the families out there. They may have 5, they may have 10, they may even have 15, but they don't have that 20 to access the traditional way of accessing homeownership. And if you think about it, that's problematic, right? It's like clearly we help people who work 2 jobs, like newcomers, they have amazing cash flow. We help the new business owners who also have great income potential through their past employment history. We also have families with significant down payment, but not the 20. And the reason we're able to do it through a very robust underwriting, that is 100% cash flow based. For traditional lenders, they use such a fraction of the data. They tend to use static indicative, like credit score, instead of a more holistic view of what's happening with their credit score. For us, we look at their cash flow. If we think they can afford the rent zone payment, and we think we can help them get ready for a traditional mortgage in the next 2 to 3 years, they're good to go. And we will put them through the program and work with them towards that final buyback.
I love how supportive that model is. Thanks for sharing it.
It's kind of amazing. It's very different from what we're used to, right? I think to your point, even if you have the cash flow, it has been instilled in our society that in order to get a mortgage, you have to have sort of a certain type of career with a certain credit score, with a certain type of income. And so you basically carve out a portion of society that frankly can afford a home, but simply can't jump through all of the hoops to get to the point where they have the right financial support to do so. So I'm wondering, obviously, this is a new business model for Canada and is relatively new in the US as well. How do you build trust and educate end customers in this new way to access real estate? Because of course it's new, and like anything else new, there's always hesitation and probably some anxiety. So I'm curious to know how you sort of go to market on the education front.
That's a great question. Also $1 million question. You're absolutely right. especially, you know, when it comes to home purchase, it's probably one of the biggest decisions they ever make. So naturally, inherently, there will be more concerns of skepticism from the local communities, especially for us, because we're focused on those secondary cities, right? One thing we learned is it's a very small community and very tight where everyone knows each other. When we first launched in those markets, it's really difficult, like to get people buying into our product. And that skepticism is not just from potential rental clients we're targeting, but also from other partners throughout the home ownership cycle, like real estate agents, mortgage agents, lawyers, and they all think this is too good to be true. It can't exist. There's nothing that's too good to be true. One thing we realize is it's very important to have local ambassadors. So once we started doing a couple of transactions, you know, helping local families, working with local partners, we realized they actually become the biggest advocates for us. Those consumers will tell their families, friends, their network about a program like ours. And more importantly, the real estate agents that we work with, they actually started talking to their colleagues, like in theory, you know, their competitors, their other real estate agents about us. And then you started seeing kind of network effects. So I think from our experience, we're still learning. There are a lot of other ways. I'm sure like there are a lot of technical actionable items, but one thing we learned that's super crucial for our model, given our geography, is to have a local ambassador who knows the local market, who has that local relationship to build the trust among the community.
Yeah, it is a very community-based approach, right? At the end of the day, as you say, it's a massive transaction that people need to take, and you know, it's complicated. As someone who has looked at it, I'm definitely intimidated by the process already. But I'm really happy to hear that obviously the adoption in the cities, once that initial trust is built, you know, you're able to kind of explain to them how, you know, your technology can really speed up the process, and as you say, open up I guess opportunities for people to start owning a home much sooner. So I guess, like, you know, a lot of the tech solutions that we come across through Proptech Collective and the work that we do are really, you know, related to either legislation or supply in terms of, you know, prefabrication, construction, etc. How do you think that technology can actually enable aspiring homeowners to access the real estate market? So you spoke about your model, but I'd love to get your insight just more generally.
Yeah, I might be biased, but my answer is always around the underwriting side. So if you think about it, I kind of previously alluded to it as well. The traditional way of mortgage underwriting hasn't really changed too much. If anything, it has become stricter. However, if you think about our personal lives, both like personally and professionally, it has evolved significantly over the past decades, right? So how do we leverage this technology? How do we leverage open banking, open data? How do we leverage all of those alternative data to build a model that's actually better underwrites and assess those aspiring home buyers' mortgage capability? Not only their capability as a particular point like today, but also predict their capability in the future. I think that could be a game changer. And you know, with all of those microenvironment, I do think it is in the horizon, just a matter of time. And once that happens, it definitely opens up the realm of possibilities for creative financing products like ours, and probably many more to come.
That's great. It's funny, you sort of touched on the next question, which is really about if there's any specific innovation or trends that you're seeing or that you'd like to see in the market right now, or anything that you're really excited about in the PropTech space?
Yeah, like there are definitely a lot of interesting trends. I think because my area of focus of Requity Homes around homeownership, so definitely the area that I'm more following closely is around homeownership, flexible homeownership specifically. There are a lot of different models like down payment assistance, i.e. shared equity mortgages, where the companies, like even including CMHC, will offer you specific down payment in exchange for future home equity appreciation. And that is more targeted at people who have the mortgage capability, but lacking the down payment and naturally leaning towards kind of urban areas. There are also other like fractional ownership model where the rental clients can own a piece of the homes they're renting. That is also focused more urban areas and multi-unit apartments / condos. And obviously there is product like ours, Rent Zone, which has existed for a while. They're proven models in the US, targeted at segments where people cannot qualify for mortgage, but have the cash flow. I just think given the kind of lifestyle changes, involvement, I think flexible ownership is going to be really important for a lot of people down the line.
Yeah, and it's funny that you call it flexible home ownership, because now it's like it's totally changed from even being in the same city. Like people are so flexible now with where they're going, which is really, really interesting to see how COVID had accelerated this as well. But you touched upon obviously different models and different startups that are also kind of building innovations in the space. And I'd like to kind of switch the conversation a little bit more towards entrepreneurship more generally. Being an entrepreneur is probably one of the hardest and loneliest journeys. And I can say this having run accelerator programs before. So there's nothing to hide there, but it's also very rewarding. So I'm curious to maybe start off with this question, which is, what has been the hardest or most unexpected part about taking the entrepreneurship path?
Wow. So many. The list I can talk about that for probably days. I mean, I knew entrepreneurship is hard, but I didn't know it was this hard, right? For example, fundraising. I know it's not going to be easy. I know I'm going to get a lot of no's, but when that actually happens in a relatively, short period of time, when you get rejections consistently, and when certain comments started kind of grinding me down, it is really, really hard. There's so many times where I started questioning myself. Am I solving a real problem? Am I building a product that actually people want and willing to pay for? There's no shortcut. You just have to pick up yourself and continue with the journey. One thing I definitely learned, entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like I'm a very outcome driven type of person. I used to have a to-do list, like when I was working at corporate, and I like crossing things out from my to-do list, and I'm pretty good at it. Like I'm very productive, I'm very efficient. And now it's like, it's impossible. It doesn't matter how many things you crossed out. There are always new things. And guess what? There's things going to be sitting there forever because we're constantly learning, iterating, right? It took me quite some time to adjust to it. I think all in all, throughout that experience, what I learned, or the biggest takeaway is, as a founder, you got to take care of yourself, both mentally and physically, because otherwise it's going to get to you one day, sooner or later.
Yeah. Hallelujah. I don't know exactly what to say, but I hope more founders are actually listening to you and just resonating with that message, because it's really important. It is a marathon, not a sprint, as you say.
Yeah. I was going to say that's like sort of the right message to end on in terms of, mental well-being and physical well-being, right? Like at the end of the day, your startup is your baby, but it's not going to grow and progress if its founder is, not taking care of his or herself. Maybe a little bit, the next question is perhaps like even more personal to you and the business. We are technically still in January as of the date of recording this. What's top of mind for you as you look to continue growing this year and the new year?
Yeah, definitely the top priority is to continue, build the momentum in those key markets we already identified in Northern Ontario, while at the same time started doing some research for expansion for other cities for viability. Because of that, we actually have a couple of roles opening up to help execute on that vision across different functions. So key would be to build a good team, solid team to execute on all those plans. That's kind of the top priority. But obviously outside of that, one thing I'm personally curious about, and obviously has a huge impact on our model as well, is how the housing market is going to perform over the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months, especially if the government is going to start, raising the interest rate. So yeah, that would be our top priorities for 2022.
I love it, because I feel like you were trying to predict the future, and I'm so keen, especially as someone, and that I know that you are so detail oriented and wanting to learn more about the market. Like I hope that you can share with us some of your predictions. I just wanted, before going in the next section, you did mention that you're growing your team, and I think for people that are looking to get into the space and find a place that that they can learn, can you just tell us a little bit more about the roles that you currently have open?
Yeah, so we have 3 roles opening up right now. It's a growth marketing manager, business development manager, and also a underwriting role. So if anyone in the community think this is a good fit, or if you know anyone who might be a good fit, definitely reach out.
That's awesome. I just want to always help talent right now. It's such a talent short market. And I think that whenever I see a founder that's working on a mission driven business, I think it's super keen to just put the word out there. So everyone, go talk to Amy.
Go talk to your friends. Go talk to Amy.
Talk to your friends, talk to Amy. All right, so we're going to move into our next section, which you have not, you don't know what this is about, but we tend to do rapid fire questions at the end to kind of, just loosen up a little bit and just get to know you as a person as well. So, Kenda and I are going to take, a stab, and you'll hear one quick question come from each one of us. So I'll start off with Amy. What is one book that you always recommend?
I was worried about this question. I was worried about, don't ask me any book questions because I haven't read a book for so long.
That's okay. This is a book of entrepreneurship. You're living it.
Exactly.
But I don't know if this is going to count it in there, but to be quite frankly, I haven't read a book for so long. Just because usually my way of digesting information is through other means like videos, podcasts, and also like research, like blogs, things like that. But I think I probably should get back to the habit of reading a book that.
It doesn't have to be a book. Where do you go to get your info? Like we just want to learn more about, where you get your
favorite
info.
podcasts. Yeah, anything.
The podcast we're doing right now. Spotlight Series with Proptech Collective.
Nice. I like it.
Okay, next question's a little bit more fun. Perhaps you've had time to think about this while sort of being locked up in this pandemic, but next place you'll go internationally, or your top destination that you're thinking of right now?
I want to go to Maldives. I was supposed to have a honeymoon there, but obviously because COVID, it never happened. So I'm really, really hoping that things can go back to normal and I can do my honeymoon.
Awesome. You deserve it now so badly. Okay, next, if you were able to time travel, where and when would you go?
Wow, I think I may just go back to when I was like in the elementary school, because it was probably the least stressful time in my life.
That's lovely. Yeah. Protect the children. This is good. I hope your mom's listening to this as well.
Yeah, exactly. What is one thing you can tell us about yourself that isn't on your resume or like your LinkedIn profile page?
I mean, people always think I'm brave, but I'm actually scared of height. I can't do roller coasters. I can't do anything. Like roller coasters, parachutes, anything you can think of related to height, I can't do it.
Wow. Do you live in a condo?
I did. Yes, I did. But I live on the second floor, so I'm okay.
Oh, nice. I'm always really scared whenever you go up 40 flights. I'm like, I'm done here. But anywho. Yeah. Cool. And I guess last question, but if you hadn't launched Requity Homes, what would you be doing?
Working for another company, I guess. Hopefully another company in the Proptech space as well. Probably. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It's a big market. It's a big market. And honestly, there's just so much, opportunities for folks to build their dreams with it. So cool.
Awesome.
What about, I guess, like as we kind of look towards wrapping up, it's been rapid fire questions. We've learned about you. We've learned about Requity Homes. And I guess, do you have any asks for the Proptech Collective community? And it could be anything from hiring, as we talked before, but, fundraising, anything.
I think hiring would be definitely the key. We definitely want to get the message out, especially around the Proptech Collective community. If anyone's interested, definitely reach out. Other than that, if there's anything I can be of assistance or anyone wants to talk to me, anything I can share privately, definitely reach out to me as well, because I feel very grateful and fortunate that I have pretty good network of advisors, mentors, and friends that help me navigate this difficult time of early stage of startup founders. So I definitely want to help out any way I can as well.
That's awesome. I love your give first mentality, and thank you for also giving us your time today to share your learnings and lessons of building Requity Homes. So I guess where can people learn more about Requity Homes? Is it requityhomes.com or?
Yeah, they can definitely find out more information on our website, requityhomes.com, or through LinkedIn, social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Nice. Oh, I'm going to check out your YouTube. I'm going to learn so much about this. Cool. Well, many thanks again to you, Amy, and also Kenda and Dentons for helping us bring the spotlight to life. For all of our listeners, if you share the same values, have an active interest in building up your professional network in the PropTech ecosystem, we encourage you to join as an official member. We have both free and paid memberships, and you can check that out on our website. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter to stay on top with what Amy's doing and her awesome progress. But thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
And thank you, Kenda, Julia, for having me here.
Thanks so much for joining us.